Today I'm going to show you how to make these earrings. Now I had a request for this video. That's why it's coming so quickly next to my last video. The girl that requested it wants to make these for next weekend for a party. And not only did she request these, she named them. They are called Lucky Diamond earrings. Now these earrings, this pair is about 3 inches from top to bottom, if you include the ear wire. This pair is 2.5 if you include the ear wire. Now, these are made with 4mm round crystals. These are made with 3mm Bicone crystals. You can use Bicone crystals, you can use fire polish beads, you can use round crystals. It doesn't matter. It all works out exactly the same. You will use the same amount of beads. You will do exactly the same stitch. It's just that one will end up smaller than the other. If you use a 3mm crystal, whether it be round or Bicone, this is the size you're going to get. If you use a 4, this is the size you're going to get. Now you can use a 4mm Bicone. You can use a 3mm round. It doesn't matter. But just realize that it depends on how bold you want your earring to be. If you want a great big bold, really wow look, you want to go with a 4. If you want it to be, it's still bold, this is still a good size earring, but if you want it to be a little bit smaller than this, you go with the 3mm. And like I said, you can use Bicone's fire polish beads, crystals, whatever you'd like. The shape and does not change the amount or the pattern. Okay, so we're going to put these aside, and I'm going to show you what we're going to use for this particular project today. Now, stuck my thumb in there. Huh. Anyway, we are going to use 4mm round crystals today, simply because it's easier for you to see what I'm doing, and I'm going to use an opaque blue instead of a clear crystal so that you can see how I'm doing this today a little bit better. You will also need some 11-0 seed beads, and you will only need 2. I put several out so that you could see them on camera. You only need 2. I'm using an 11-0 Toho silver line crystal. And then you will need 2 ear wires. I'm using a lever back silver plated ear wire. Now, you will need 154 crystals for 2 earrings. There are 77 crystals in each earring. And we are going to get started with this project. Thread onto your needle an entire wingspan of 8-pound or 10-pound Firelne. And then thread onto your needle. I'm using a size 10 English beading needle. Thread onto your needle 6 of your crystals. Bring your crystals to the end of your Firelne and tie it into a circle. You don't have to leave a long tail, just enough to tie your knots. We're going to go ahead and just do an overhand knot here. And then we're going to do it one more time to make sure this is nice and secure. Make sure your knot is between your beads, not on top of them, and then sew back through all of your beads to reinforce your unit. Since this is the unit you will be building from, I'm going to make sure it's not going to fall apart. So just go ahead and sew back through the entire unit. Like this. Now, when we look at this unit, each unit that we make will consist of 6 beads. I'm going to have you reference this as the unit in half. 3 beads on one side, 3 beads on the other side. So we are right where our thread is. We've split our unit in half here. Now that we need to build 2 units, we're going to start from 1/2, and then we're going to work over to the other half of our first unit. This bead right here will be shared in our second unit that we're going to create. So if we're going to use this bead, and we need 6 beads for each unit, we're going to pick up 5 beads to make our unit here. So pick up 5 crystals like this. And then you're coming out of this side of this crystal. We're going to go into the opposite side of this crystal, and we're going to pull and bring our unit up and around. So now that we have two. Now go ahead and sew around your new unit. I'm just going to turn it over so it's more accessible to my right hand, and just sew around the entire unit to secure it. I will be coming out of the bead I started in the first place here. So this is what we've got now. We've got one unit, and we've got the beginning of our second unit. If we divide it in half, we have 1/2 of our next row here. So just divide the unit in half here, and you look at it, you'll see that this one is coming out of this side at a diagonal here. Now we're going to make another one at a diagonal this way. And if you look at it, you can see that this bead and this bead start the curve of our next unit. So we will use two beads, this one and this one, to start our next unit. So we'll crawl up into this one here. Now I'm sewing upside down, so if it looks awkward, that's why. I want this to be the right direction for you to see instead of for me to see. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to include this in my unit. If I'm going to do that, then all I need to do is pick up 4 beads onto my needle this time, because to create a unit of 6, if I already have 2, I will only need 4, of course. So I have 4 on my needle. I am going to come around. I'm coming out of this bead. I'm going to come into this bead right here. And pull through. Now I need to come up into this bead, and now you look at it, and I have 3 units. So now I need to get down to this bead here to start my next row. I need to make 3 on this row. So I need to start from an outside bead. So I will create a circle here, a circle here, and a circle here to make 3 beads. So in my first unit, I'll start here, and I will add 5 beads. Here, I'll include these 2 and the bead, one of the beads from this unit, and I'll only need to add 3 beads. In here, I will then make my next unit. So let's go ahead and sew down. If you look at it, and you know you're going to make a triangle, you can kind of see where you need to go next. You just have to kind of look at it and keep in mind where you're going, because it can be confusing knowing where to go next to build your next unit. So we're going to come into this bottom bead here, and we're going to start our next unit. Now we're only going to share this bead. So in order to make a unit of 6, we need to pick up 5 beads. So we'll pick up 5 beads onto our needle. So there's my 5 beads. I'm coming out of this one. I'm going to go into the opposite side that my thread is coming out of and pull. Now I'm going to sew around this unit that I've just created just to secure it. Once you get back to the bead that you originally started your unit in, then you will need to make your next unit. So you will hop down, you will share this bead, and this bead. If you look at this, you can see this is a curve. It starts a new circle. You can see the half of the circle here. So we know that we need to come down into this bead, and then we need to add 3 beads if we've already got 3 here that start our circle. We're going to need to add 3 here. So we're going to pick up 3 beads to make our 6. The center unit, you will include 3 that you have already made on your unit here. So come up through this one, You're coming out of this one and pull. Now we need to sew through this bead and this bead all the way back around so that we can get to our other unit. Plus, this will include these two beads into our circle we just created. So we need to sew around it like this, and then through these two. And now you can see the beginning of our next circle here. This one and this one. Now, if the beads start to curve off the other directions, then you know you're not going to include them. If they're in a curve in the middle here, it looks like it's going to start a circle, then you know you need to include them. Now, I know I don't want this one in my new unit because it's going that direction. I know I don't want this one in my unit because it's going this direction. This one is starting to go this way, so I will include these two. So I will come up into this one, and I'm going to use these two, so I need to pick up 4 more beads onto my needle. This. Now I'm coming out of this little bead here. I want to go into this bead to create my circle. I'll just grab them both here and pull. And now I have my next unit complete. Now in this next row, I want to expand one more time. So anytime you're going to expand, you're going to work out of the most outer bead on the bottom of your unit. Now remember, if you're looking at your unit, there's 2 beads. These are the upper beads here, and these are the bottom beads. This is the most outside of the bottom bead here. So I'm going to come down to my most outer bottom bead. I'm only going to use that bead in my first unit. So in order to make 6, I need to pick up 5 for this unit. This is what you'll have on your needle. You're coming out of this side of your bead. You're going to go into the opposite side of the bead. And then pull your unit forward like this. Now this is wobbly, so we're going to sew around it to secure it. I'm going to turn my work over just so it's more accessible to my right hand, and I'm going to sew through all of my beads. And now you have the beginning of your next row. And again, you can see the curve here, how this one begins our next circle. You can see the curve with these 3 beads. So we're going to come up into this bead, and then we're going to come into this bead, now we have 3 beads starting our circle. We need 3 more to finish it. So we will pick up 3 beads onto our needle. We're coming out of this bead here. We're going to come into this bead here to create our circle. Just like that. Now we need to come over to here to start our next one, and we need to include these beads in our circle of this particular thread stroke. So we're going to go through this bead and through this bead here. Now if you look at your next unit, you can see the beginning of your next circle here. So we are going to go into this bead here. Now we have 1, 2, 3 for a circle. We need 3 more. We're going to include this one here. And then we're going to pick up 3 beads to complete the circle of this unit. Like this. Now we don't want the bottom bead. We want this bead here You can see this one starts to curve this way, so we don't want it. We just want the 3 that are starting to make a circle. Have a half a circle here. We're going to create the other half, just like this. Now we need to include these beads into our circle, secure them in. So we're going to sew through these 2. And now you can see the beginning of our next circle with these 2 beads here. This one's curving off this way, this one's curving this way, so we don't want those 2. We just want these 2 to start our new circle. If we're going to have 2 beads in our new circle, then we need to add 4 to create the rest of it. So come up through this bead here to start the circle, and then pick up 4 beads onto your needle, like this. Coming out of this one, we're going to go into this one and that one, just in one stroke. You don't have to, but it's just easier. And that's what you'll have. Now, we have 1/2 of our triangle. We're going to start building from the other triangle. Now, we need to begin our next side of our triangle, we need to do exactly the same row that we just completed. So we'll make a 4 row on this side, and then we'll do a 3, a 2, and a 1. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to sew down the row we just created. We need to sew down to the bottom beads. Turn this back around so it's the right direction for you. Now, instead of working out, we're going to want to work down and make the same amount of beads. So we're going to work out of the bottom beads now, just the 2 bottom beads in our segments here. We're not going to work out of the sides here just one at a time. We're going to work out of 2. So we're going to come through the 2 bottom beads in the first unit, just like that. Now we have 2 beads, so we're going to build a unit right directly underneath it, so we have the same amount and it doesn't curve at all. So if we have 2 beads, we're going to pick up 4, like this. We are coming out of this bead, we're going to go into this bead. And then exit right there. So you're just including 2 beads. Just like this. Now, you can see the beginning of our next unit here, our little curve here. So, if we're going to include these 3 beads in our next circle, then we only need to pick up 3. But we need to get to where we can start to add them. So we need to sew down into this one, right here. Just like that. You can see the beginning curve of the next circle. I need 3 more. You're coming out of this bead. You want all 3 beads in your circle. So you're going to go into this bead here. And then into the one next to it. And then down into this one. And now you have a circle. Now we need to get over here to build our next circle. So we're going to sew into the 2 bottom beads here. This will also secure these beads. Pull it tight. Keep good tension on this as you're doing this. Now you can see where we need to start our next circle. We have to come up to this one, and this one curve in the same direction we want to make our circle. This one goes that way. So we will not include this one in our next unit, but we will include these 3. So in order to do that, we need to get up to this bead here. Then we're going to sew through these 2 beads to get our thread in position to add the bottom half of our circle. Get all 3 of these beads on your thread here, and then pick up 3 beads onto your needle. And you're coming out of this bead here, go into the other half of your circle here, and pull your beads up. And now you have a complete circle. We need to work over to this You can see the beginning of our next circle, this bead, and this bead. That one starts to go that way, that one starts to go that way, so we don't want those, we just want these three. So we're going to sew until we get over to these three. Now, I'm going to go down into this bead. I can see the beginning of my next circle right here. This bead, and this bead. So I need to pick up 3 beads to complete. If I already have 3 that start my circle, go into this bead and then the bead next to it. And now I need to connect this bead to my unit, so I'm going to go down into it. Now, we have our first row on our second half. Now we need to start to decrease. When we were increasing, we started on the outermost bottom bead. When we're decreasing, we're going to start on the innermost bottom bead to make our next unit. So we're going to go into this bead right here. And if you look, you can see the beginning of our circle, this bead and this bead. So we're going to pick up we're going to pick up 4 beads to start from this bead, and then we're going to come into this bead. So if we're exiting here, we're going to come into this bead right there. Now we have a circle, but we need to join these 2 beads together and work our way back down to start our next circle. So let's go back into this bead and just work our way all the way down this unit. Good tension on it here. And now you can see as I come around, you can see the beginning of our next circle right here. This bead, and this bead. This one is going this way. So I need to get up into this bead here. Now, this is the beginning of my next circle. So I'm going to pick up this one and this one. And on my thread already, I have 3 beads. For my circle, I need to make 3 more to complete it. So we're going to pick up 3 more beads. We're exiting here. We're going to enter here. Pull your beads up. Then we need to sew through these 2 to secure them. So we're going to go ahead and go through this one and this one, plus we need to get our thread over here so we can start our next unit. You can see the beginning 3 beads for our next unit. So we're coming out of this bead here. We want to get this bead and this bead to start our next unit. So now we have 3 beads on our thread, this one, and this one. We need to pick up 3 more. We're here, we're going to go into this one, and I hope you guys can't hear my dog snoring. He's really snoring. Guess he's tired. Okay, so now I have my next unit, and I need to sew all the way around here to include these 3 upper beads. And as you can see now, we are starting to decrease. We're starting to make the bottom half of our second triangle. So in order to decrease again, we're going to sew through these 2 beads, and in our first unit bead of our next row here, we're going to work from the inside bead as we decrease. So we need to get to this bead here. So we're coming out right here. Now we're just going to include this bead and this bead in our next circle. This is our outermost bead. We're not going to work from those. As we're decreasing, we're going to work from the innermost beads. So we're going to add 4 onto our needle to make a unit of 6. We're coming out of this bead. We're going to come into this bead here. Just like that. Now we need to sew up into this bead here to start our next unit. So I've just come from that one to this one to this one, and you can see 1, 2, 3 here, starts our next circle. You can see the curve of it. So we need to add 3 this way, and we will ignore this one. And we will come into this bead right here. And then we'll go into the bead right next to it too, just to advance ourselves a little further here. And then come down into the middle bead. Okay. Now, in order to make our last one, we will use these 2 beads right here, because we're going to make our tip now. Now, our very last unit is a little bit different than the rest, simply because we're going to use 5 beads instead of 6. Up here we have a division between the 2, and this is where we'll put our ear wire. Down here we want a point. We want it to come to a point like this. If we have 5 beads, an odd number, then we will have a bead that is in the most center and will become a point. If we have 6, we'll have a division in the middle. So instead of making a unit of 6 on the very bottom, we're going to make a unit of 5. We need to come into one of these beads here. These 2 beads are the 2 we're going to build our unit from. So we need to get into one of the bottom beads to start our unit. And if we're going to make this unit 5 beads instead of 6, and we have 2 on, we will just pick up 3 beads, which you'll have onto your needle. And you're coming out here, you're going to go into this innermost bead here, like this. And then you're going to come around and secure this unit. So go back into the bead you started in. And sew around this entire unit here again until we're coming out of this bead here. Now we have successfully made a triangle except for the 2 points on either side. So we need to add beads on either side to make our little points here. So what we're going to do is, and we're going to have to strengthen this unit, this entire piece, because it's kind of wobbly. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pick up our piece. We're coming out here. We're just going to sew all these beads together. We're just going to run our needle all the way up through, and then we'll add a bead here. So we're just going to start sewing up through all of our beads on the outside. And this will pull them together, straighten them out, and give them a straight side instead of a curvy open side. So you can see, now that I pull it together, it's starting to give my piece a straight side. Now, I'm all the way up to the corner. I'm going to pick up another bead onto my needle, and I'm going to insert it between the beads on the side there. So I've got one. I'm coming out here. I'm going to go into here and pull that bead down. And now I have created a corner. And now I'm going to sew up to the top. Now, if you used an entire wingspan of Firelne, you should have plenty of thread to sew all the way up and around this entire unit once. And then twice, actually twice. So we're going to go all the way to the top unit here. We're not going to add our ear wire yet because we need to sew down and add this one. Then we'll work our way back up again. That will not only put us in position to put our ear wire on, it'll strengthen our entire unit. So I'm coming out here. I'm going to move my tail out of the way. And then I'm just going to go into the top bead on the other side here and start working my way down all these beads on the outside, pulling them together as I run my thread through them. When you get to the corner, you will pick up a bead onto your needle like this and insert it between the 2 beads by just going into the next one. Pull tight and then continue moving all the way down your piece again. securing all of these beads into a diamond shape. Now I'm all the way to the bottom of my piece. I'm going to go through my bottom bead and pull. I'm going to work back up around. Okay, so now I'm going to cut my tail wire off, or you can sew your tail back through if you'd like. I'm just going to cut it off right now to save time. I am coming out of one of the two beads in the very top unit of my piece. I'm coming between, if this is one half of the unit and this is the other half, I'm coming out dead center of one of the beads here. Now I'm going to pick up an 11/0 seed bead and my ear wire and an 11/0 seed bead, and I'm going to drop them down. Make sure that your ear wire is in the middle of the two 11/0 seed beads. Let's get really close so you can see these. Like this. Okay? Now we're going to go into this bead. We're coming out of this one. We're going to go into this one. And pull. This will pull everything down, straighten it out so that your thread is not twisted. Just like this. This is what this should look like. Now we're going to sew around this entire unit to come back around and secure our ear wire on. So just go around this entire 6 beads in your first unit of your piece. Okay, when you get back up to the top, go through your 11/0 seed bead, go through the 11/0, go back through the ear wire, go back through the 11/0, and down into the bead underneath it. Now you can do this 2 or 3 times. After you come out of the 11/0 here, go back down into your unit, sew around your entire unit. Again, do that a couple of times, then sew back down into your work, do a couple half-hitch knots, and tie your thread off, and we'll be back. Okay, so I have secured my ear wire on. I just went ahead and sewed around the unit several times until I felt like my ear wire was nice and secure. Then I went down into my work and sewed in my original thread path, making half-hitch knots, and then sewing through some more and making half-hitch knots, and then I tied off my thread, or cut off my thread. And now I'm finished. And this is what my finished earring looks like. These are really very pretty. And they'd be a lot of fun to wear at parties or just whatever. They would also make a really pretty pendant. You could do even in a little bit bigger bead and make it a little bolder and make this a pendant. And in your top beads, you could just put a bail instead of an ear wire. And that would make a really pretty pendant too. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. And I hope you make a whole bunch in different sizes, different colors, and different shapes of beads. Have fun. Bye-bye.